After the Civil War, the federal government's pledge of 40 acres and a mule to the formerly enslaved has long been known as a broken promise. But a new investigative report reveals that not only did the government grant land to hundreds of formerly enslaved people, it also took that land back and returned it to white Southerners. That two-year reporting project done by the Center for Public Integrity, Reveal, and Mother Jones is now the largest collection of land titles from the 40 Acres program ever to be analyzed and published. I spoke recently with Alexia Fernandez Campbell, a senior investigative reporter at the Center for Public Integrity. Alexia, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
I'm so happy to be here.
So take me back to the fall of 2021. You were working on an entirely different project unrelated to this. You're digging through the digital archives at the Smithsonian, and you come across the name Fergus Wilson on an 1865 document. How does that change the course of your reporting?
I didn't immediately realize what I was looking at. I did some Googling. I'm like, this is the 40 Acres program. And I was thinking, but everything I knew about it was that it was a promise that was never kept. It's something that didn't happen. So to me, like that disconnect, we're like, oh, there are land titles. I don't think this is common knowledge.
So a lot of folks have heard this phrase, right? 40 acres and a mule. As you say, a lot of people thought, okay, this just never happened. And your reporting is called 40 Acres and a Lie. What's the truth behind this program? What do people not know?
What people don't know is that it wasn't just a promise that was broken. People were received land titles. We found more than 1,250 people who got land titles, men and women. They picked out their plots of land, mostly on the plantations where they were enslaved. Actually, not everyone got 40 acres, which is another misconception. It was up to 40 acres. And then people were living there. They were planting their crops. They were selling them in Savannah. Some of them formed governments. They elected a sheriff. They were living their lives, and they lived there for like up to a year and a half before they were kicked off.
They were kicked off. I want to stop you there so you can tell us a little bit more and also remind people what it took you to get to the point of finding those 1,200 people that you did. You and your reporting team, you reviewed thousands of records, you conducted hours of genealogical research, you even employed artificial intelligence to sort through the millions of documents online. You mentioned these families, and we're talking about a stretch of land in Georgia and South Carolina, we should point out. How did they get kicked off the land that the government gave them?
Basically, because Lincoln was assassinated. I mean, they had promised this land, they gave land titles, the government said, this is yours, you deserve it, you're going to keep it, but Congress needed to make those titles permanent. They had a majority in Congress who were willing to do it, but Andrew Johnson, he was the vice president, he was a white supremacist. He sided with the planters who wanted their land back, and he vetoed every effort to make those land titles permanent.
So how were those families removed? They were literally forcibly removed from the land?
Some of them were, some of them revolted, some of them were pressured to sign work contracts, basically to work for their former enslaver, and some just said no way, and they left.
I want to name some of the people you uncovered here because their names have otherwise been lost to history. Fergus Wilson is one, Jim Hutchinson is another, Pompey Jackson is a third. You managed to track down some of their descendants as well. Did they know about the land and the history you're sharing with us now?
A lot of them did not, and I even spoke with one descendant who has been researching her family diligently. She lived with her great-grandmother, who was Pompey's daughter, and even she thinks his daughter didn't know. So she was amazed to hear this history.
You did a little more research to talk about the value of the land. This is an important part of your reporting here. One 4-acre lot that you identified in Jacksonville, Florida, based on a sale last year, that it would, today, 40 acres would be worth $2.5 million there. It's not just the land that was lost here in your reporting. Tell me about what else you found.
Yeah, well, just that generational wealth that wasn't passed on. You know, this 40 acres land was all the coast. It's like expensive coastal real estate. We found gated communities, golf courses, and restaurants, incredibly valuable lands. This is wealth that was not passed on, and that's kind of what we're trying to show is the impact. This is not a history lesson only, it's the impact on people who are alive today.
The people who live there now, the communities that are there now, is any of this history part of what they know? Are they aware of it?
No, absolutely not. And it was very jarring for me to go to some places where there's no sign. Other than like the Habersham Plantation gated community, that's, I guess, that sign. But as far as the 40 acres that it was given to someone and taken back, there's zero signs.
Do you have any way of calculating the full loss of generational wealth here?
That was actually one of the hardest things to do. We wanted to, because there were like 75 plantations more where this land titles were handed out, but we couldn't find maps for all these old plantations to figure out exactly where they were. So we had to just use these examples. And the examples we found, some of them were like shocking. Like like you said, millions of dollars for 40 acres today.
So when you speak to descendants of these families, what kind of reaction did you get? I mean, knowing about the generational wealth that was lost, about the historical injustice that transpired here, what are their reactions today?
People have had a lot of different reactions. I would say a very common one was cynicism, kind of like, yeah, of course the government took it away. Like, of course we would be given land and my ancestors would be given land and be taken away. That was just the beginning of like many hundreds of years of like injustices against the Black Americans. So a lot of people were not surprised. There were some people who were surprised to find out they were personally connected to that history, but no one was surprised that the land was taken back.
There is a sort of what now component to all this, right? Is there a way to correct a historical injustice like this?
Some people have been asking if there's any legal recourse. Everyone we spoke to, the experts said that because they weren't permanent titles, that they needed to be basically ratified by Congress, there's no legal recourse, but no one's ever like challenged a situation like this in court. However, there are people that we spoke to who think that, you know, there is a moral issue here. It's such like a glaring injustice, and there are people with names who got land titles and descendants. Like, it's not just some abstract idea, like people lost this wealth, and that maybe there's a moral claim for like reparations or something like that.
It's just a remarkable piece of reporting. I know a labor of love for you and your team, 2.5 years of work there. It's online now for anyone who wants to read the whole thing, 40 Acres and a Lie. Alexia Fernandez-Campbell, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Praise to the Most High Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai, by Shem Rakak Badash, and double honor to the apostles and elders, great millstone, for teaching his truth that's gone all around the earth, and shalom to the hopeful elect. It's your brother Atazwan from the great millstone here in St. Louis. We're going to get into a quick lesson based on that news clip we watched. And Salaki, I know it was 6 minutes long, but it was a very important piece. One of the brothers put it in our chat. And through the spirit of Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai, I decided to go into a little lesson on it, all right, to show you that we are indeed are the children of Israel. We are the people that we read about in the scriptures, okay? Because the things that happen to us here on this side of the world has not happened to anybody else, all right? So briefly, there are a couple of points that I wanted to get out of that video. The lady used the term known as cynicism, all right? That the descendants of the slaves that were given the opportunity to have up to 40 acres and a mule and were cheated out of it, let's just say, call it what it is, by Esau Edom, so-called white man, all right, reneged on the deal, right, after Lincoln was assassinated. So she used this word here and it says cynicism is the feeling of distrust or that something isn't going to work out well. Some people feel cynicism when politicians make big promises, and they've done that time and time again, year in and year out, right? Where these politicians come and make promises and they never deliver, okay? So that's what these descendants were feeling when they realized that their people before them had certain properties and lands that would have built some kind of wealth for them. Now, ultimately, we're under the curses by Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai, so that's the reason why that didn't work out. But nonetheless, it is something to go into and to think about how this devil really is, okay? And the things that they have done, which are markers, which show you that we are the true children, all right? That we are the Israelites, okay? So let's get a few scriptures and go over a couple of things here real quick. This is Micah 2:1. It says, "Woe unto them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hands." And that's how Esau Edom operates. All right, they go to bed. The Lord seals their dreams on the left-hand side about what to do, how to do it, so on and so forth. Then when they get up the next morning, they put it into action. All right, as we are on the right-hand side, they are on the left-hand side. Okay. Verse 2, "And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. Therefore thus saith the Lord, Behold, against this family do I devise an evil from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go heartily. For the time is evil. In that day shall one take up a parable against you and lament with a doleful lamentation and say, We be utterly spoiled. He hath changed the portion of my people. How hath he removed it from me? Turning away Salakia, turning away he hath divided our fields. Therefore thou shalt have none that shall cast the cord by lot in the congregation of the Lord. Prophesy ye not, say they do them that prophesy, they shall not prophesy to them that they shall not take shame. O thou that art named the house of Jacob, is the spirit of the Lord straitened? Are these his doings? Do not my words do good to them that walketh uprightly? Even of late my people is risen up as an enemy. Ye pull off the robe with the garment from them that pass by securely as men averse from war. The women of my people have ye cast out from their pleasant houses. From their children have ye taken away my glory forever. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted. It shall destroy you, even with a sword destruction. So no matter what we do in this land, right, with these people over us, right, they're deciding to do certain things to us. This is not our rest, okay? All right? And there's no need to get comfortable here. These people will never do right by us, okay? All right? And it's not really designed for them to do that, okay? The Lord didn't bring us over here really to prosper, okay? So now let's look at the issue of what is known as the Black Seminoles, because that's who you have during those days, all right, in which they took Seminole Indians and so-called Negroes because we looked similar and because we were of the same nation, all right? And Seminoles are known for their, their fair skin, from fair to dark, and having that red hue, okay, and so on, right? But the tribes mixed, okay, with what they called Negroes, right, which was the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, all right? So here you have a overview, and it says Black Seminoles, okay, let me see if I got it. It's highlighted already, Salakia. Black Seminoles, quote unquote, refers to a group of African Americans, right? So they're calling them African Americans, but they're Black Seminoles, okay? Talking about the Negro tribes, primarily runaway slaves, right? So this again proves that these issues, these small hatters, are not the people of the Lord. You see? All right? Black Seminoles refer to a group of African Americans, right? Primarily runaway slaves who joined the Seminole Native American tribe in Florida, creating a mixed community where they lived and fought together, often known for their bravery during the Seminole Wars. Essentially, they were black people, right, who became part of the Seminole tribe through integration and shared cultures, right? They had shared cultures because they're the same people, okay? It says key points about Black Seminoles. It says runaway slaves, also called Maroons, joined the Seminole tribes in Florida, forming a unique community, right? And they try to say that these people were so-called white-looking, all right, which isn't true at all, okay? Because when you look at a lot of these logos, and we're going to look at a couple of logos, you can see that they've got them colored red. You can think about the Atlanta Braves, Florida State Seminoles, right? The Washington Redskins. They no longer use that term, but okay, that's what they're talking about, the Cleveland Indians and so on, right? And which, by the way, all these major league teams were owned by the Ishes, okay, by the small hatters, you see? Going on, it says Black Seminoles played a vital role in the Seminole Wars against the U.S. government. And these are the same people that promised to give the people this land and then came and took it back. All right. Known for their resistance and fighting skills, Black Seminoles is used to distinguish this mixed population from the Red Seminoles, who were primarily of indigenous ancestry. They're the same people. Okay. Esau always got to try to throw you a curveball when he's trying to give you some history, right? Let's see. You go to this page here, and this is of the Florida State football page, and you see that right there, the logo that they have, okay? and they painted the face white. The face of this brave here was never really white until the school got in trouble for making the tomahawk symbol while the games were going on, right? And chanting, all right? Denoting that these people were savages, okay? Let's see here, you got some more, okay? So my thing is with this, how do you pay these people? If Esau really had a heart, right? If he like the cowardly lion, if he really had a heart, how would he begin to repay what they've done for 100? When did Lincoln die? 1865, 159 years ago. Okay, how would he go about repaying? You can't do it. It's a number that you can't reach. Okay. Just like their property, they estimate some of their property would go for $2.5 million. No, an acre or 2 acres with that mansion that's sitting on it would go for $2.5 million. Now imagine having 40 acres of it on the shoreline, okay? Because you know Esau liked the water. He liked the best places. He gets the fatness of the land, right? Because that was part of his blessing, okay? So Isaiah 10:1, it says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment and to take away the right from the poor of my people." Right, and that's what Esau has done all of these years, even up until the present time. Okay, there's no way to put a value on what they've stolen. Okay, the widows may be their prey, Salakia, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. You see? And that's all this man does, is goes around the earth robbing and pillaging. Okay? So now that portion that they talked about of having a contract, and is there any kind of way that these descendants can fight to get the rights back to that land? Okay, and they tried to imply that there may be no way to do it. Well, of course, if you look at the legalities of things, they may say, what is it? I forget how they say it in the legal term, but too much time has passed. But it just goes to show you, when you go back, that there was a such thing known as a verbal contract, right? It's still in effect today to a certain degree, but back then they had a verbal contract with the president, right? Before he was assassinated, that said that these certain families would get up to 40 acres and a mule. All right. So here it says in this overview, yes, verbal contracts can be legally binding in some circumstances. However, they can be more difficult to prove than written contracts. To be legally binding, a verbal contract must meet the following criteria: mutual consent. All parties must agree to the contract. They did agree to the contract with the president that was put out there, that these different plantations and these different slaves, after being released, would have up to 40 acres and a mule. All right. Clear offer. There must be a clear offer. There was a clear offer established by the U.S. government to these newly, I guess you would say, freed slaves. Okay, which the land was theirs to begin with, but that's another story. Okay, so there was a clear offer, acceptance. They did accept it because, as she stated in her research, these people lived on this land, on these different types of pieces of property through Savannah, South Carolina, and Florida, down to Jacksonville and so on, right, for a year and a half, probably some longer than that, before the U.S. government came in and reclaimed it and took it from them. You see? So both parties did accept the offer. Capacity, both parties must have the ability to enter into the agreement, and they did, because what? Lincoln so-called, quote-unquote, freed the slaves, as they say. He freed certain of them, not all of them, okay? But those to whom it applied to. Then it says legality, the contract's content must be legal and possible to perform, and it was, because they lived on the land, you see? So there was nothing wrong with the verbal contract that they had. going on here, let's look at another issue. All right, because there's another part of the law that says what 9/10 of the law. All right, or 9/10 of possession of 9/10 is 9/10 of the law. Salakia. Possession is 9/10 of the law. And we see it right here. It says possession is 9/10 of the law is a common legal phrase that means it is easier to maintain ownership of something if you have possession of it. And they were in possession of the land. Okay. And more difficult to enforce if you don't. It also sometimes said as possession is 10 parts of the law. The phrase is often used to describe ownership rights to real or personal property. And that's what that up to 40 acres and a mule was their real property. Okay? So how is it that you can't correct a wrong if it were possible? Right? So yeah, I believe it would be right to say that they still have a right to that same land that was taken from them because it was stolen. All right. For example, it goes on to say in real estate disputes, people may claim that if they've been occupying land without the owner's possession for a long time, they become the legal owner. This is because the owner would have evicted them if they didn't want the squatters to possess the property, which really doesn't apply because these people were newly freed, right, and given an opportunity and a portion of land to what? Sustain themselves and their families. So they were not squatters, technically. All right. So they had what? Possession is 9/10 of the law, right? And they had a verbal contract to be done. You see? So it's nothing but fraud by Esau Edom, once again, being exposed for all the dirty shit that they've always done. Okay? Let's go over here to Salakia. I want to go, let's see. Let's go up some. To Deuteronomy, 37. And it says, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it. Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shalt neither drink of the wine, nor gather the grapes, for the worm shall eat them. Right? So in other words, man, we're going to catch hell, okay? Trying to raise our own food, keep our own land, so on and so forth in this place, right? Because we're under the curses, you see? So Jake wasn't meant to prosper, but now you go down the road 150, 160 years, and all of this evidence is still there, all right? That Jake caught a raw deal, all right? And they're not going to do anything about it, okay? Let's go over to Job here, 20. And go to the top here. Let's start at verse 4. Knowest thou not that this of old, Salakia, knowest thou not this of old since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment, right? Because Esau Edom, the so-called white man, is a hypocrite, right? He's a liar and he's a thief. He's wicked. So though they may have prospered over here on this side by enslaving Jake 400 plus years, all right, 400 and some odd years is nothing compared to eternity, okay? For Jake, that is. We'll get everything back, right? And we'll live forever, Lord's will. Things, that at least for us who are in this truth right now, of course, all Israel shall be saved in the end. But, those of us who bring out this truth, we could see everything. And Lord's will, we of that stock, we're those men, okay, that we shall be saved, in that 1/3, okay? But this white man, known as Esau Edom in the scriptures, okay, is also the wicked, all right? And his triumph is but for a short time, okay? Verse 6, though his excellency mount up to the heavens and his head reach unto the clouds, Yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. They which have seen him shall say, where is he? Right, there's going to come a time, once we gather these, especially these elites, right? We gather them up towards the end of this thing and put them in slavery for 1,000 years. The Lord is going to do away with them like their own dung. They're going to vanish away, all right? But we're going to put hell on them first. Verse 9, the eye also which saw him shall see him no more, neither shall his place any more behold him. For, Slakia, his children shall seek to please the poor, and his hands shall restore their goods. Right, and so that's what you see these women doing on this news report, all right, is that they're seeking to please the poor, to say, hey, we found something here that we would not have ordinarily found, had we not been looking for one thing, which led them to another. All right. Though wickedness be sweet in his mouth, though he hide it under his tongue, though he spare it and forsake it not, but keep it till within his mouth, keep it still within his mouth, yet his meat in his bowels is turned, it is the gall of asp within him. He shall swallow down riches, and he shall vomit them up again. The Most High shall cast them out of his belly, right? So all the riches that these devils have taken and hid in the earth for themselves with their greedy little hands, okay, the Lord is really going to give that, all right, to his children. So they just gathered the wealth for us, all right? We'll get a couple more and we'll be done here. This is Revelation 19. We're jumping right there, verse 11. It says, and I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness doeth he judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. Yeah, the Lord is coming to take down all kingdoms, all right, that are on the planet, all right? Whether they be one kingdom or amalgamated, all crowns, all kingdoms will come down, all right? For Yahweh Shah will reign upon the earth, man. His kingdom will reign, okay? And right now, Esau's kingdom is falling, okay? He's in charge still, but his kingdom is coming down, all right? And he's getting ready to lose that crown. Going on, it says that he had a name written that no man knew but himself, which is our Savior's rank, because we do know the names, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Okay, and he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of the Most High. And the armies which were in heaven followed upon white horses, Salakia, followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he shall smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. And he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness with the wrath of Almighty power. And he had on his vesture and on his thigh name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, right? So the Lord will take over, all right? Bring these devils down. And all the crap that they did to the children of Israel, they're going to pay for it, all right? We'll get one more, because their kingdom will not last, okay? We have it here in 2nd Ezra, chapter 6, we'll start right here, verse 7, and it reads, then answered I and said, what shall be the parting sunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first, this world age right here, okay? And the beginning of it that followeth, which will be the new kingdom that's coming, the new age of the new kingdom of righteousness through the power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, all right? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau, Salakia. Right here in verse 9, for Esau is the end of the world, right? This world age, right? The earth abideth forever, as the scripture says. The earth is not going anywhere, but the rulership of this world age is coming to its end, all right? And Jacob is the beginning of that new kingdom, the kingdom of righteousness, right? And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. And that it is the kingdom of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai on the earth. You see? So anyway, I just wanted to touch on that just a little bit. I found that piece a little bit, it was pretty interesting. All right, and like I said, the Spirit just jumped on me to look up just a couple of things and then make a lesson out of it, and if you're more interested, you could look into it. But this proves once again, all right, that we are the true children, all right, and not them people over there in that land, and not them rats, them gutter rats you see crawling out of the sewers of New York and Brooklyn, all right. So with that, anyway, we're in the lesson right there, giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. Shalom.